Picture this. An opponent puts a huge problem on the battlefield. The player besides you, still your opponent, asks if anyone has removal. The table shakes their head. Either their hands are devoid of removal or they're tapped out. Your opponent wins, and your neighbor grumbles, a familiar phrase. This is why you need to play more removal. A recommendation I've seen time and time again, from content creators to peers, but most from, how do I put this lightly, people losing the game. This video is a deep dive into the strategy behind removal, how many you should play, what you should play, all the stuff you've come to expect from my theory work. But let me be super clear. Someone telling you to play more removal because they lost the game isn't your fault. So why the whole soapbox on winning and second place grumblings? Because removal is a key to victory. Card draw gives you the tools, mana gives you the resources to escalate, but removal is the mighty sword and shield that buys precious time. It denies your opponent of their threats and lets you punch through whatever defenses your opponents set up to stop you. Everything we consider, from how we use removal, how much we play, and exactly when to use removal, needs to be framed around how removal unlocks your game plan. So with that said, let's do our removal deep dive. There's 4 important attributes of removal. First is cost. Cost is obviously the casting cost of removal. The cheaper it is, the better, but we can't always get what we want. Speed is the timing of when we can cast it. We always want things to be at instant speed, but usually, the more reactive our removal is, the more it costs or the less it can target. Which leads us to range. Range is the amount of targets our removal deals with. Some removal spells are single target, some have multiple targets, and some sweep everything. And lastly, there's flexibility, the variety of targets it can hit. Some cards sweep everything, some cards only sweep one type. So why does this matter? Well, removal in multiplayer has a tricky issue of being tempo negative. You Doomblade a creature, now you and the owner of that creature go down one card and the resources spent to cast a creature and also the removal spell. The 2 other opponents are unaffected. The classic arcane denial argument. So the keen viewer at this point is probably thinking, well, if we played effects that extends our range, it would make us more tempo neutral or even positive, right? A dismantling wave instead of a disenchant. A pick your poison instead of a naturalize. Yes, but if you notice, most of these more tempo positive spells come at sorcery speed, or if we really want to extend our range, the cost of the spell increases as well. There's always a drawback in the design. The reason why we break out these attributes is because we need removal to excel in different ways, relative to what we need them for. So let's just suspend these attributes for a moment as we dive into the roles of removal. Removal has 3 main roles to serve, as I mentioned earlier. They need to stop our opponents from winning or reaching the point of winning. Let's call this survival. They also need to help us push through our game plan. So let's call this unlocking. And lastly, they need to control the board for the sake of de-escalation. Watch the escalation video here for the escalation theory. And let's call this suppression. As you can imagine, the attributes we just talked about matter really differently to these roles. If we need to stop our opponents, speed matters most because it has to be reactive instant speed removal. It probably has to be more narrow or also cost effective if your deck needs to develop on your own turn as well. Meanwhile, if our deck cares about a specific form of defense that often stops our game plan altogether, like a rule of law against a spells deck, a propaganda against a go wide deck, or even just a Maze's Ith against a Voltron deck, this form of removal doesn't have to be at instant speed, even though it most likely could. But it could also be more narrow to make sure it removes the one thing that stops you dead in your tracks. And lastly, de-escalation cares more about range or tempo more than anything else. More on this later in this video. With the role and qualities defined, let's get to the real strategy behind removal and deck building. Let's talk numbers first. From my pre-con statistics video, we know that WotC builds with an average of 12 removal spells in a deck. Even a wizard's designer recommends to fill out this stack of 12 removal spells across 3 different types of removal. And I think this is a fine amount to start with, but let's dig a little deeper. In CDH, where interaction is at its maximum, we normally see a range of 4 to 8 single target removal, with counterspells usually at 8 to 10. I know we haven't talked about counterspells yet in this video, which does factor into your removal count as interaction, but I'm going to handle counterspells in a separate video. The CDH meta and play pattern is very defined. There's an expectation you're going to have deeper stack battles with multiple counterspells answering each other to stop a win attempt, with Rhystic Studies, Remoras, and Sentinels fueling you more to win these battles. Using CDH as an example, we now have a good maximum for our range of removal to 18 cards to efficiently interact with our opponent, mostly at instant speed. You could just rip the removal suite from a CDH deck of your colors and call it a day, but the issue is that it doesn't work quite as well as we go to more casual brackets. Taking it back to Casual Commander, this is where it gets interesting. Unlike CDH where threats are defined and predictable, casual metas present a wider range of threats across various archetypes. One table might be 3 go-wide creature decks. One table might be 2 control politics decks and a poor Voltron deck regretting their decisions in life. Now this doesn't mean you jam 18 versions of Beast Within to cover your bases, because the key to designing your removal suite is making sure it follows your game plan. So how do we figure this out quickly, and what's the right number per archetype? But before we do that, please subscribe to the Patreon to support creating more in-depth videos like this. Every dollar goes to feeding a hungry boy. Oh, actually, I'm good on food. Senpai feeds me. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to the camera. What camera? First, we're always going to play removal of all 3 roles within our interaction suite. Counterspells will factor into this, and I will touch on it mega lightly, but as I said earlier, the counterspell deep dive comes later. Now the question is how much removal we should be playing. How much removal should be decided through time, and how much time our decks are expecting to spend playing the game before winning. A deck that is aggressive in nature wants less removal, since most of our resources and time will be spent advancing our aggressive game plan earlier in the game, with removal sparingly used to unlock our game or buy us a turn. 12 removal spells should suffice for a deck like this, with a heavier lean towards removal that unlocks, and less focus on board wipes, since you should just be punching through to victory. While a deck that is more reactive in nature will need more removal to suppress and control the board. Given that it wants to play a longer game, the deck will want 18 removal spells, with more focus on flexibility and range, and more board wipes than our aggressive decks to reset the table. If we bring up the template we've been developing so far, across this entire video series, this leaves about 21 cards left for our game plan, which to some might seem like removals eating into our theme quite a bit. A big reason why most players don't play enough removal is because we're not here to blow stuff up, unless that's the plan. So let's address that problem. As we've established, we have 3 roles of removal we want to add to our deck's removal package. While I would keep the survival focused removal category as purely clean-cut instant speed interaction, which could also include some counterspells, for the rest of the categories, here's where we can have some fun with it. We can find removal that fits your deck's theme. Cards like Ancient Animus for a +1/+1 counters deck to remove a creature while also giving counters to be proliferated, or playing more Oblivion Ring-like effects for Enchantments Matters decks. Or a personal favorite of mine, something like Sundering Growth in a tokens deck instead of Disenchant. We can also look for removal that has flexibility beyond removing things to gain space within our deck. Spells like Bushwhack that can find you a land or remove a creature, a Supreme Will as a counterspell but also as a way to dig for a card, or Final Showdown that can protect a creature at 2 mana or wipe the board at instant speed for 6. Let's also not forget about the original tempo issue of removal. While playing sweepers are tempo positive for how much value they sweep into the graveyard or into exile, we can also explore playing removal engines that scale with more time. Something like an Aura Shards, or even Intrepid Hero to shoot down big creatures turn after turn. By mixing theme, flexibility, and scale together, you can create some pretty fun removal packages, like playing liquid metal coding to make Viashino Heretic a Stone Rain machine. So to apply this model to one of our example game plans with this Ardent Jessica aggro deck, we have 12 pieces of removal. Within the survival category, I have Generous Gift, Chaos Warp, Tybalt's Trickery, and also Get Lost as instant speed, pretty flexible removal within our colors to answer mostly any threat that really needs to be answered, with also one Tybalt's Trickery just in case we need to answer something on the stack. Then within Unlock, here I'm really focusing on Maze of Ith and also a Dranith Magistrate. So here I'm playing Cleansing Wildfire and a Braid, then Timely Malfunction as a way to swat away a piece of removal, and also potentially destroy evil for any weird passivisms, but also maybe a big blocker. Then lastly, within Suppression, I have Blasphemous Act, Tempest of Light as sweepers, and also Pyrohemia as something to consistently eat away at small creatures decks, and also one Argentum Armor here as something that Arden can repeatedly use. The perfect removal package isn't about following a rigid formula, but understanding your deck's needs and the meta you play in. Make your removal work with your strategy. The best removal packages help you execute your game plan while preventing opponents from executing theirs. So the next time an opponent complains that the table isn't running enough removal, just tell them, have you tried winning instead? Thanks for watching. Okay, I gotta speak my truth. I think today's video not as good because we missed like the most important category of removal. It's the removal that you don't play in your own deck. I don't play that much removal because what I do is whenever I play commanders, right, I'm playing like my big dino, and then when there's like a problem, I like look at my friend or I look at the person next to me. I'm like, yo, that's like a scary card, right? Don't tap your mana. Don't do anything. You know, that card's like super scary. And then they don't do anything and then wait for like the thing that's scary and then they remove it for you. So that is like category number 5. That's grifter removal. Classic fundamentals of Brooklyn street magic. Y'all ain't grifting enough. Okay, I've said my piece. Time to show the other videos. If you like playing removal spells, you gotta draw into them, right? So check out this video over here that like goes super deep into like card draw spells. And then this video over here, I don't know what it's gonna be yet, but like just click it. Just click it. It's probably good or bad, I don't know. But no matter what, remember, your boy taught you grifter magic. All right, it's good to see you this week. I hope you're doing well, you know? It's a little hot, but see y'all next week, all right?